Susan Miller Havens is our next guest, and she's an extraordinary artist because she has taken images of baseball, basketball, and football and put them on canvas. But my question, Susan, is where did you, I know, but tell our viewers where you got these images, because you've been working very closely, haven't you, with the Sports Museum?
Oh, some of the images, for instance, the masks, come from the Sports Museum. Has a fantastic archives that nobody gets to see because it's over on Soldiers Field Road where the old museum was. And whenever I want a piece of equipment, I go over and ask Dick Johnson if he can drag something out for me. So I have that for my still lifes.
What about the actual action? I have the feeling that you are going to many of these games.
I am going to many of these games. And what I do is, because it's whether or not I could hire somebody to come into my studio and catch a ball or run across the studio, it would be impossible to capture what I have in mind. So I go with my old Canon camera and I sit down in as close as I can get and I shoot a lot of film until I see what it is that I had in mind, see if I can pick it up some way.
Now you have said that baseball captures, or you've said something that is the essence of this, captures the spirit of this country. I'm interested in how you, because other people have said this. They say this more about baseball than they do about football or basketball or hockey. There's something that even though it's, to me, it's become a business, there's a reverential attitude towards baseball.
Well, I think it was Roger Angell who said that baseball is timeless and seamless. It's something that our fathers played and their fathers before them, and it doesn't really change much, with the exception of, as you say, salaries and probably the designated hitter. But basically, it's the same game, and it's played in the same time, in the same ways, and it's very American. And it's older probably in America than basketball, in terms of people who have gone to see it, taken their children. It's also a game that anybody can play. It doesn't matter what your
You're
gender
absolutely
is.
right. You don't need a hoop. A bunch of children can go out and say, let's grab a game of pickup baseball.
Well, you can also, the other thing is it doesn't matter what your size is. You don't have to be tall. You can be short, you can be fat, you can be slight. Anybody can play it. It's a great pastime.
Do you do now your paintings? You were saying that sometimes people get too involved in your titles, and they were looking at one title here. I want you to tell us, our viewer, about it. We'll show it on the screen. That the expression that I'd never heard of before.
Oh, he never begged off pitching me? He never begged off catching me. That's an expression that has to do with whether or not a catcher might refuse to catch in a game for a particular pitcher because either they don't get along or the whole thing doesn't work. And in this particular painting, what it has to do with is the tremendous dependency that the catcher and pitcher have on one another. In the old days, the catchers used to completely control the games. And nowadays, there are coaches everywhere, the first base coachman, the pitching coach, all this business. So the catcher doesn't control the game as much as he used to, but there's a tremendous bond between the pitcher and the catcher that has to go on.
You had said something about this being a Billy Lee-ism, or?
Oh, a Bill Lee-ism, right. Bill Lee wrote a book which I think was entitled The Wrong Stuff, as opposed to the right stuff. And in it, he talks about his experience of pitching to Carlton Fisk for many years. And Bill Lee was and still is, very colorful fellow. And Carlton Fisk was a very even character with tremendously high standards. And he was able to put up with Bill Lee, and that's where the reference comes.
Well, take us through some of your other paintings as we show them on the screen.
Well, I think that what I want to say first of all about all of them is that the reason that I'm painting sports at all is that I think that all artists over time have painted what is in their culture or what reflects their culture. So that in Crete, for instance, the sea was what really dominated culture, and you see that in the art of that time. And during the Renaissance, what was going on was that it was the church. It was the Catholic Church, and that's the way artists made their living, and that's what was important in the culture. And then as you move on, we have all the world wars, and we have our own capitalism. And I think that, like it or not, in the United States, sports is very important to our culture. And my feeling is that sports in of themselves say something about what it's like to be a human being. And what I mean by that is that if you look at these games, you can think to yourself about how much what you want to do as an individual. You want to try your best. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Most people want to be part of a team. And most people have also thought about what it would be like to be a hero. And, in sports, players are not really heroes. I mean, firemen are heroes. People who
in
fight.
the true sense of the word.
In the true sense of the word.
But nevertheless, in the media, sports people are thought of as heroes.
Sports give you an opportunity to live that fantasy, if you will, of being a hero. The person who hits the home run, the person who picks himself or herself up after multiple injuries and somehow crosses the line. I mean, it's something that's, I think, is universally loved in our culture.
I think, Susan, I think that you're an artist of incredible merit, talented, what have you, and you're very swept into the athletic world, which I think is terrific. I think you've made a very good point here that America is a country of sports. There's no two ways about it. People, I would just like to see more people participate in it. Sometimes I get nervous that they become spectator sports people rather than being active in it.
That's right.
And I think the point you make about the baseball is just terrific, that anybody can play baseball regardless of what size they are. And this is indicated in Susan Miller Haven's paintings.